Welcome to Katie Bird's Nest. I am Kate, and this is week 11 of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Week 10 I did 9 months ago. I've done week 11 3 times since then, and I just couldn't get into it. And I don't know, I sat down this week and I just was like, I gotta finish this series. I just have to finish this series. So I finally did week 11 and it's stuck. So week 11 is recovering a sense of autonomy. The sections are acceptance, success, the zen of sports, and building your own altar. For acceptance, she says, as artists, we must figure out what works for us. And that would mean, she kind of goes through and lists a bunch of things that we should accept. And I think it's kind of like jogging your mind so you can think of specifics for yourself, but I'll just kind of go through the ones that I sort of pulled out of the section that stood out for me. I think I got most of them. So she talked about accepting your work schedule. You know, artists don't usually work 9 to 5. I mean, unless you have like an external employer, but if you're working for yourself as an entrepreneur, you probably don't just sit down and work 9 to 5. You know, a lot of people work evenings and weekends and that type of thing. You just accept it. And then you likely won't have a steady income either, because you know, if you write books, you end up with royalties, and those come out on whatever schedule the publisher has. Or if you're doing paintings and you do a gallery whenever during the year, then you get paid like in that one lump sum. Or I'm not sure how that works with painting because I'm not a painter. But, you know, however your artistic industry pays out, it's not usually every 2 weeks for an artist, unless you're, you know, the graphic designer that works for an actual company. You have to accept that you need to create what wants to be created, regardless of if it's going to sell or not. You know, just because you sit down and create something doesn't mean anybody wants it. But you have to accept the fact that not all of the things you create are going to be moneymakers. It's just the way it's going to be. And on top of that, you have to accept the fact that some of the things you create are going to be not so great. Some of those things are going to be bad work if you're willing to put a judgment call on them. But that's part of the process, is learning and having those bad pieces of art as stepping stones up to better pieces of art, or sending you in new directions. But you have to accept that part of the process, because it is what it is. I mean, you're not always gonna hit a home run on your art. And what else did I have? Oh, your eccentricities. You have to accept the fact that you might be a little bit weird compared to some other people, you know. She had a spot in here that I liked. It says, to be an artist is to recognize the particular, to appreciate the peculiar, to allow a sense of play in your relationship to accepted standards, to ask the question why. To be an artist is to risk admitting that much of what is money, property, and prestige strikes you as just a little silly. And I've always kind of thought that. I mean, I don't know. It just resonated with me. She also says to be an artist is to not keep trying to be something we aren't. And I feel like that's a block for some people, is you try to fit into, you know, some family standard or some friend's expectation or something. And you just gotta be you. You just gotta be you, and then your art will be easier because you're you, if that makes any sense. So you also have to accept that you're going to have to take care of your inner child and of like self-care. You know, you have to have a baseline of self-care and self-nurturing and, you know, pampering your inner artist child in order to be productive. And it's going to take time out of your day. You can't just breeze through and ignore your morning pages and your artist dates and expect to stay at peak creativity. You have to allow yourself time to fill the well and those types of things. and you have to accept that it's going to take time. So that's kind of all I pulled out of the acceptance spots. So moving on to success, she says creativity is not a business, although it may generate much business. An artist cannot replicate a prior success indefinitely. Those who attempt to work too long with formula, even their own formula, eventually leach themselves of their creative truths. And that pretty much goes along with my example of books that I've read where you see it's the same story over and over and over again, and then, maybe they get several books out of it, or paintings, or whatever it happens to be, but your customer base suddenly realizes what's going on, and it's just, they stop selling, and you as the creator, I guess, kind of run out of steam after a while. I mean, you have to make something different. She actually started the success section by talking about how creativity is a process. It's not something that is ever reached or completed. And that as artists, we must be willing to start anew on the next project, to be open to where creativity goes next. She also says in this section to continue daily morning pages and a weekly artist date, to fit it in however busy or however successful your life becomes. And that's kind of where the acceptance part is for me. I'm like, yeah, you just kind of gotta stick it into your routine and just keep with it. So the Zen of Sports section makes a case for, regular exercise for the most part, but she's saying that it's not for the exercise portion of movement. it's like getting you out of your head. It's getting you out of your head and into the world around you. And it's like rhythmic movement, walking, jogging, swimming, biking, and she has like a paragraph on example, kind of each one. And each person in the example was kind of giving their experience with their particular exercise of choice, saying how they get in touch with, the swimmer was getting in touch, I think, with their breathing. And, I think the people who were outside were like, oh, they can see the birds or the wind or, on their face or whatever. And I think that's true. I think that's true to a certain extent, that, getting outside and moving around physically really does help. But I think that also is a phenomenon that happens like when you're driving, or sometimes when you're taking a shower, or cleaning the kitchen, doing the dishes, when you're just sort of away from your art and you're kind of just rhythmically doing something else, and all of a sudden, ding, light bulb goes off and you have an idea, or whatever occurs to you. Because I had that experience in driving, when I had that story come to me that was a brand new story. It wasn't the story I was working on, but it was still, it was still creative pop that came to me. So she's saying physical activity offers an opportunity to get into the zone, just in a different way. And everybody knows what the zone is, the flow, the zone. It's just like a physical activity zone in a way. And, personally, I miss the physical zone, because I used to run, and you definitely get in a zone when you're running a lot of miles. And, it helps get your frustrations out. And so the last section is building your altar. Okay, now, I don't like this one. Personally, I just, I have my cat passed away back in June, and I have my little shelf, my little memorial shelf, but I don't consider it an altar. I don't do sacrifices or anything there. It's just, little toys or whatever. It's just like a memorial. And I have all my little knickknacks up on top of my hutch, but they're like decorations, I don't do sacrifices. up on my hutch. That's what I kind of associate with altars. So I don't know, I don't get into the whole altar thing. And no judgment on anybody who wants to or who gets into it or anything. Totally no judgment. You know, go for it. You know, whatever works for you. That just does not go for me. I just don't get into it. So I do have like my planner supplies and all my writing stuff, but I still don't, I don't know. I don't really, it's just not my thing. So as far as tasks go, there were 9 tasks at the end of the chapter, and I don't know, it's just like I was rewatching videos of previous chapters before I did this one, and it feels like a lot of times I just don't do the tasks, and this chapter was the same way. I didn't do 1 through 3, I didn't do 6 through 8, and I didn't do 10. I just was like, this one's not for me. But I did do 4 and 5, which are about honest changes. Let's see if I can find the exact question here. They are honest changes from week 4. Inventory for yourself the ways you have changed since the beginning of your recovery. And then number 5 was list 5 ways you will change as you continue. And so I looked back at week 4, and then I looked back at the 3 other times I did week 11. I also did questions 4 and 5. So that was kind of cool because I have answers from 6 months ago and 9 months ago and on the honest changes. So that's nice. But they're really personal. So I am not going to share them online. Sorry. But I also did number 9. Number 9 is, once more re-examine your God concept. Does your belief system limit or support your creative expansion? Are you open-minded about altering your concept of God? And so I wrote a little bit about that. Again, I'm not going to share that either. That's very personal. But I did write about it, and I wrote about it more than once. Again, the other times that I did week 11, I also wrote about number 9, which is interesting that the other 3 times that I did this week, I chose the same exact questions to skip and the same exact questions to answer each time. And I guess at least I'm consistent. So anyways, the check-in at the very, very end. I did morning pages 6 days. There was one day where I did not do them. I have not recommended morning pages to anyone. I haven't seen anyone. I just moved into this city, so I don't know anyone. I've been to the grocery store, but I'm not going to tell the cashier to do morning pages. So did I do an artist date this week? My husband was out of town on a work trip, so it felt like every day was an artist date. It was kind of a fun week. Did you experience any synchronicity? No, not really. I mean, I rearranged my office. I moved my desk diagonally across the room. And it feels more natural to have the room arranged the way it is now, but I don't know. I don't really feel like that's synchronicity. It's nothing to do with my writing. Were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Excuse me. I actually do. I have a dog now. My cat passed away in June, I already mentioned. And then 3 months after that, my husband and I adopted a dog because we were pet sick. We needed a pet, and he's allergic to cats, and no cat can replace Oliver. So we both really like dogs, and we got a beagle, and so we've been living with our beagle, and I've been really inconsistent about walking him, and so because my husband was gone all week and I was on dog duty, I gave the dog a walk every day, and I'm so proud of myself for doing that, and I intend to continue doing that because it's a good thing to walk the dog every day. He needs to get out, and I feel like that's significant to my artist journey because as far as the Zen of sports is concerned in this chapter, that is, rhythmic movement every day. It gets me outside, and the weather is actually pretty nice out here in the spring where I live now. I'm out in the greater Portland area, so it's like in the 50s most days. It is a little wet, but hey, that's what jackets and rain boots are for, and the dog doesn't care. He wants to go for a walk anyways. So, going for a walk every day is good, part of my recovery. In the artist's way recovery sort of way. So I am going to get into chapter 12 tomorrow, because tomorrow is Sunday. And Sunday, week 12, is recovering a sense of faith. And that will be the last chapter of the artist's way. And I don't know if I'm going to start it over again and try and do the whole thing, because I do feel like doing it a second time, it will be different because I've done it before. And yeah, I'm just not sure. I've waited a long time to do these last 2 chapters, and it does feel a little disconnected. And I would like to see how it feels to do the whole thing all the way through. But I'm not sure if I want to take the time right now. I would like to just keep doing morning pages in the artist's date for a while at the very least. So I will see you next week.